Sonny Dykes has one of the more confusing coaching resumes in college football.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simbios. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. Later on in the show, TCU basketball, they have an official visit from actually a Houston legacy basketball player that is one of the best basketball players of all time. I'll tell you about that later on in the program, but we start today. It's ranking season. We are 1 week away from fall camp starting up, which means we're still in the middle of ranking season, list season. Everybody's coming up with just content to put out in the world. CBS Sports, Shehan Jayaraja from CBS Sports ranked the Big 12 coaches from 1 to 16. Number 1, Matt Campbell. A little surprising to me, but Matt Campbell is coming off a Big 12 title game appearance. Has had a lot of success at Iowa State. At one time was the hot name on the coaching market, right? Had apparently some opportunities, maybe jump towards the NFL. Famously, allegedly doesn't have an agent, does everything himself. But he's been at Iowa State a long time. Has had some success and got them back where they needed to be as of last year, even though they did fall to Arizona State in that title game. And you see with these rankings, one helpful thing he did was he put last year's ranking at the end of the blurb. So Matt Campbell's number 6 last year. And you can tell when you look at it, last year's results had a lot to do with these rankings in general. But Sonny Dykes, take a moment to guess where you think he lands. He's at number 9, right behind Mike Gundy, who's at 8, and right in front of Dave Aranda at number 10. And I was thinking about this when I read the story. I believe Sonny has one of the more confusing coaching resumes in college football. He's really tough to evaluate when it comes to these lists. And the reason I say that is I think you could argue, with the exception of the Cal job, everywhere he's been, he's overachieved. He won 10 games in one season at SMU. Now, at SMU, his teams had a tendency to fade down the stretch, and Rhett Lashley has taken that job and run with it even more. But when Sonny took the SMU job, they had become an afterthought. Post-death penalty, they had almost no success. June Jones and Chad Morris had like 6-win seasons there. And in Chad Morris's case, he parlayed that into the Arkansas job. Like, that's how destitute SMU was when Sonny took over. Chad Morris won 6 or 7 games in a group of 5 league, got to the Frisco Bowl, and suddenly found himself coaching the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, that didn't work out for him, but you get my point. It was not a place that had had a ton of success. He did a good job recruiting there, using SMU's location in the city of Dallas as a way to leverage getting talent and keeping that talent home. When he was at Louisiana Tech, he won a conference title. He did good things there. Now, in between all that, he had a stint at Cal that didn't go well. But Cal's a tough job. I mean, Justin Wilcox is widely regarded as one of the more respected coaches in college football. And he's been at Cal for a while. But a good job, like Justin Wilcox wins between 6 and 9 games each and every season. That just kind of tells you like the baseline for that program these days. It's not a place where you're getting to double-digit wins very often. He coached Jared Goff there. Win-loss wise, it didn't go well. They essentially mutually parted ways. He was fired. And he ended up at TCU for a year before taking the SMU job and then coming back to TCU. He takes the Frogs to the title game. They won a playoff game. There is no other coach on this list that won a playoff game. Some of the coaches ahead of him, Deion Sanders at 7, Kalani Sitake at BYU, Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, Chris Kleiman, Kyle Whittingham. Listen, Utah fans, I know who Kyle Whittingham is. I understand the job that he's done. But when you look at the heights of Sonny's highs, for lack of a better term, a little redundant there, I mean, he's reached levels that a lot of these other coaches haven't. And yeah, it was a team that was built by Gary Patterson. And that was a talented football team. I'm not going to spend any time disputing that. Quentin Johnston, NFL wide receiver. Max Duggan, incredible college quarterback. Got a chance to play in the league, didn't work out, but incredible college QB. Kendre Miller, Amari DiMercato, really good running backs. Offensive line, you had like 2 or 3 legit pros along that front that had played college football for a long time. Defensively, had dudes that made plays. But, I mean, it wasn't like Gene Chizik at Auburn the year that Cam Newton won a title. And the reason they won was because they had Cam Newton and everybody else didn't. He did a good job of getting those guys to lock in, and whatever you want to call it. Did they have some good luck? Sure they did. Did they win a lot of one-score games? Yeah, of course they did. But for everybody who wants to people sometimes want to act like winning one-score games and winning by close margins just means you're lucky and you're not good. And that's some of the stupidest stuff I've ever heard in my life. It's so clearly a narrative that's formed by people that have never played sports. Because, yeah, there is the ball bounces your way or it doesn't in that regard. But also, you have to make plays to win games. You have to be great in winning moments. And that team was just outstanding when the chips were down. And they found a way to win week after week until, they ran into Georgia. But he won a playoff game. I mean, I think that in itself should put him in the top 5 when it comes to these coaching rankings in the Big 12. The other side of this coin, though, I mean, halfway into last year, I thought he was going to get fired. I wasn't necessarily rooting for that, but after the Houston loss, my thinking was, well, they're probably going to limp down the stretch here and end up with 4 or 5 wins, and even 2 years removed from a national championship appearance. I don't know if that's enough to save his job. I don't necessarily think he's on the hot seat this year. I feel like the way they closed the season bought him some more time. But that's why, I mean, I'm supposed to come on here and have a really strong take. I'm just kind of acknowledging it's a tough evaluation because there's some great moments, there's not so great moments, and that's true of any coaching tenure. Kyle Whittingham, number 2 on this list, is coming off a really rough season. Now, we know the reasons for that. I mean, a lot of it was injury related. They had a QB in Cam Rising that couldn't stay healthy. They couldn't find another quarterback. But Kyle Whittingham has also had a lot of consistent success. Let me tell you what the writer, Shehan Jayaraja, said on CBS Sports about Sonny. Dykes is in a strange position. TCU won 9 games in 2024, but he slid 13 spots in the national rankings and 4 spots in the Big 12. A few of those ascensions are fair, but Dykes' coaching career has been undervalued. He posted a 25-10 record in his first 3 seasons at SMU, including their first 10-win season since the 1980s. The national championship run skewed expectations, but jumping from 5 to 9 wins year over year is solid progress at TCU. Contend for another Big 12 title, and Sonny Dykes should return to the top 25 where he belongs. So here's the key. And I actually had an interaction on social media with Shehan, and he essentially told me this. Right now, people are looking at that incredible season in 2022 and saying, well, you know what? It's an outlier. It's not the norm. The norm for him is between 5 and 9 wins. And so if he can get back there and stabilize it, then that'll be his ceiling. Just to be candid, I don't think that's good enough at TCU. I was fine with 8 wins last year. Fine. I think the season ended well. I'm not this people talk about the Big 12 sometimes now, like it's the Mountain West, and that everybody should get to 10 wins. I'm not a huge believer in that. TCU was a few plays away from being 10-2. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, but they were knocking on the door there. There were really only 2 games where they were just completely outclassed. SMU, which they turned the ball over like 100 times, and then Houston, which should never happen, but it happened on that Friday night. The step forward that they need to take, I agree, is being back in the Big 12 championship game mix. And I would argue in the new Big 12 world, that's something that we should expect from TCU either every year or every other year. Like at the level that they recruit compared to their peers, you're going to have some seasons where maybe you're younger and you're not in a place where you can be the best of the best, but they need to be few and far between. And Sonny has to establish that consistency this upcoming season. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts in the YouTube comments. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Thank you to FanDuel. FanDuel is where the game starts. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. One $5 bet. You hit on your first $5 bet, you get up to $150 in bonus bets. MLB season in full swing. Rangers sweep the A's to start the second half of the season. Shout out to the A's bullpen, which is horrible. We'll be following them through the second half of the year. You can do in-game parlays, live betting action. Also, they got those future bets going. TCU at 6.5 wins. That's easy money. Hit the over. Hit the over. They're going to get to 7 wins. Make yourself some money. You'll thank your future self later. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. They've got deals going on every day. Your first $5 bet, you hit on that bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. That's a deal for new customers at FanDuel.com or on the FanDuel app. So I rarely share personal stories on here because it's kind of frowned upon. They want us to keep it to the TCU business, and I understand why. But I'm going to share a brief story. If you're watching this and you're like, wait, it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Why the heck is this just now being posted? So I'm part of a fantasy football league, and we're doing a new thing this year where we're going to do like a mini combine to determine our draft order. So one of the things that we have to do is run a 40-yard dash. I have not run a 40-yard dash since high school. I mean, it must have been high school when I was playing football. We used to run the 40 before camp started. So yesterday, I went out to like a local track because I just wanted to get a baseline of like, okay, how fast am I right now with no training? And over the next few weeks, what's a realistic goal for me to shave that time down a little bit to hopefully a more respectable time that will be, at the very least, like in the top half of these participants. So I'm out on the track and I'm running the 40 and I've got my oldest son, Bradley, timing me with a stopwatch. It's been a long time since I've done any sort of sprints. I jog, a couple times a week. I play with my kids a lot outside. So I'm semi-active, I guess you could say, but I couldn't remember the last time that I was in an all-out sprint. So I ran like 5:40s. If you're curious, my times were all in the 6s. Okay. And I wanted to do one more run because I was trying to get like close to 6 flat and then work backwards from there, hopefully. So I'm telling my son, like, hey, go on movement and then hit it when I get to you and tell me what the time is. I'm going to do one more. So I line up and I'm going. And, again, I haven't sprinted in a while. So it took me a few times to even kind of get to a place where I was like, okay, this is as fast as I can go. Like I'm really booking it. So heat number 6, I'm in a place where I'm going at full speed. And I hit like a weird place on the track. Or I just stepped awkwardly in my knee, it didn't fully hyperextend, but my kneecap like slipped. It was enough that it made me pull up. And then when I pulled up, I just fell. And so I fell forward and I landed like on my hand, on my right hand, and then I rolled over. So I look around and my kids, my son Bradley and my daughter Abby run over to me. And I'm like, I'm okay. I was in pain, but like, I'm all right. So I said, let's get up and go to the car. And we'll just go home. And as I'm walking to the car, the adrenaline starts to wear off and the pain starts to set in. And I get my kids in the car and I get in the car and I realize I can't I can barely put my keys in the ignition and I can't turn the engine over because my right wrist is hurting so badly. And then I put together, I fell like hand first. So all my weight must have landed on my wrist. So I get home and I tell my wife, who was thrilled that, she's running around with 4 children while I have a broken wrist. Perfect time. We got 2 toddlers. Perfect time for me not to be able to lift anything or do any sort of insane physical activity. So I ice it. I take some meds, whatever. And I figure like I'll be better when I wake up in the morning and it'll be fine. I'm just sore. But it didn't get better. I woke up this morning and I showed my wife like my wrist and my arm. My wife's an ER nurse. She's she works in the pediatric ER. So her baseline for medical issues, it takes a lot for her to say, hey, you need to go to the doctor or you need to go get checked out. She's not someone who's just going to be like, oh yeah, any little ailment, we should go. So she told me I need to go see a doctor. And I was like, okay, that's bad. Anyway, long story short, I have a sprained wrist, I believe. I didn't end up getting an x-ray, but I did not get an x-ray because my doctor was like, I feel like you're okay. I might go back and get one if it doesn't get any better. But all that to say, I'm old. I'm 32, but I have 4 kids. So that makes me more like 50. And yeah, I was embarrassed. My body just broke down on me while I was trying to run. And yeah, I'm still going to attempt to do a podcast where I criticize people that are doing insane athletic feats on a weekly basis when I can't even run a 40-yard dash anymore. But such is life, I guess. I'm an old person. And the reason why this podcast is later today is because I almost broke my wrist. And that story took about 5 minutes longer than I anticipated. So we're almost to the end of segment 2. But I came across this story today. TCU basketball recruiting. We don't talk a ton about it. I mean, I follow it as much as I can. Jamie Dixon, though, in the last few years, quietly has seemed to do a much better job with high school recruits, getting big names in on official visits committed. Aziz Olajuwon, the son of NBA Hall of Famer Hakeem Olajuwon, who's a 4-star prospect, is going to go on an official visit to TCU. He's scheduled the following official visits: Stanford on July 31st, Cincinnati on September 26th, and TCU on October 3rd. So they're the last one, which is usually a good spot to be in because the player gets to hear the other pitches from other schools, and then you get to come in and give your spiel and be the one that gives the last impression. So hopefully that's a good thing for TCU. But Aziz Olajuwon, if nothing else, it'd just be really cool to, have him committed and be around that family. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I'm excited about this men's team. I've slowly started talking myself into Brock Harding, Tanner Toolson, Jaden Pierre. Like, it's kind of a hodgepodge of players, but I believe there's more talent on this roster. I think the roster as a whole, like, it's a better fit from a team standpoint, and that they're ready to really go for it and make things happen. And, if they can get in a good rhythm during non-conference play where they play some good opponents, including Michigan and possibly defending national champion Florida, then things could look up in Big 12 play. When we come back, who's going to win the running back battle in fall camp? So I've been adamant in saying that, fall camp's going to be awesome. Storylines will be good. But one unique thing about this team is there's not a lot of position battles that will be actively going on. We pretty much know what this roster is going to look like. Yesterday, I did talk about Devin Deal, and he's no doubt starter at edge rusher. But then who are the players that step up behind him to give him a break from time to time and still give you quality snaps? It's a big year for Jonathan Backs. You got some young freshmen who I know they're looking at as well. It's always kind of dangerous, though, to count on freshmen to give you meaningful snaps on a consistent basis. However, one very obvious camp battle that we will get to see play out, and I don't know how they're going to handle this. Last year, I honestly thought it was a battle that would extend into the season. I guess it technically did, but they were decided on Cam Cook. They decided Cam Cook was the guy. He just lost his spot eventually because he struggled to produce. Running back. We're going to know who this running back is. A lot of hand-wringing about this run game, deservedly so. And, yeah, a big part of it's on the offensive line, but another big part of it is the run game. Can somebody step in and get those tough yards? Can you turn 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11 into 2nd and 7 by picking your way through a couple tackles, keeping your feet churning, and getting forward progress when you need to? Nate Palmer and Jeremy Payne. Those are the guys that are going to compete. And I know some other names have been thrown out there. Listen, Trent Battle, good football player, and he has a place on this team. He has a role, but I think in Trent's case, we know who he is. We know what he's going to do. And I don't believe he's really in consideration to be the starter. Kavorian Barnes, right now I would say he's your short yardage back. Now, if he does some good things, maybe that role could increase. He had a good career at UTSA. His final season was not a lot to write home about, but he dealt with some injuries. Some young guys stepped up, and he just sort of lost his spot. However, kind of an under-the-radar pickup, chance for him to do some things. But again, I think it's going to be in a specified role. He'll be your short yardage back, give you those tough yards from time to time when you need to get a first down, when you need to punch it in the end zone, which is something TCU needs. If I had to guess today, I would say Nate Palmer will most likely be your starter. I think he and Jeremy Payne will share carries throughout the year, but especially early in the season. And John Denman's also named a true freshman. I don't think he's going to compete for the starting job, but he's a good guy to have in that room. Sonny said at media days that Nate was a dude that emerged during the spring. He just kept making things happen, and he showed up. But that Jeremy Payne was their most productive running back last year. When he had the ball in his hands, good things happened. I think Jeremy is more versatile. It was kind of telling to me, though, that in the bowl game, when they had 3 weeks to put together a package for anybody, Nate Palmer got a lot of those carries. Now, it wasn't the most impressive stat line in the world, but he was the one that was toting the rock most of the time. And if he had a good spring, to me, signs point towards him being the dude. That doesn't mean someone else couldn't emerge during the season. Bottom line, we've talked about a lot of different options. Somebody has to be productive. I think Josh Hoover might run a little bit more, but I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that carries the ball more than 3 or 4 times a game. And honestly, for Josh, I feel like it's just about finding the balance of making teams at least have to respect you from time to time so that they're not totally diving down on the running back every time you have a zone replay or an RPO because they know you're not willing to suck the ball and run. And then when you're moving outside the pocket, yeah, keep your eyes downfield, but if there's nothing there, just take those 6 or 7 yards that's in front of you and live to fight another day, or keep the chains moving and keep your drive alive. It's really as simple as that. I don't have to, don't have to be a 500-yard rusher. It's just about taking chances here and there. We'll get some more clarity about that, though, here in the next couple of weeks. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast.